to be a part of this community. Thank you so much for inviting me. Psalm 84:10 says, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness. Amen. So, once again on this Sunday morning, all of us have decided to leave our homes and come to this place to join in this community with our families and our friends and engage in an activity that we call worship. The music, the prayers, the readings, the rituals, all invite us into a spirit in which we reach out to something greater than ourselves. We find ourselves attuned to and embracing the words such as from Psalm 116. I love the Lord because he has heard my voice. He has inclined his ear to me. Therefore, I will call on him as long as I live. Here in this place, we call upon the living God. And suddenly, in this time of worship, we find ourselves resonating with other words from the book of Psalms, like, oh, sing a new song to the Lord, or his steadfast love endures forever. Or make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Our experience in worship compels us to offer praise, adoration, thanksgiving, and wonder to the God of all creation. We celebrate in this community this morning with an uplifted spirit in this house of worship. But there's more than praise going on. Worship is more than praise. Because when we bring ourselves to this place and stand in the presence of our Creator, we recognize that there are in all of us places that are wounded, bruised, and broken. None of us is completely whole. We know about broken relationships, shattered dreams, struggles for health and wellness, the burden of guilt and remorse, all the strains and stresses of life. We are all in need of healing. And so we find hope and we find comfort in the words that are recorded in Matthew's Gospel when he writes, Jesus went about the cities and the villages, curing every disease and every sickness. Look who Jesus cares for. Those who are pushed aside, isolated, and quarantined. He heals a leper. He heals a slave. He heals an impoverished, sick woman. He gives sight to a blind man. He heals one who is speechless and demon-possessed. He brings life to a child who had died. Jesus cares for the least and the lost. He takes time for those who have nothing, who feel rejected and alone. And I believe that here in this place, Jesus has time and compassion for even people like you and me. All of us are open now to the presence of that healing spirit. Several years ago, I lived in Alabama. I was asked to be a counselor at a church camp for high school youth. We had an interesting exercise one day during that camp. The leader gave us the instructions. There were about 40 of us. Stand in a circle in this big room. And then she would say something like, if you were adopted, walk to the middle of the circle without speaking. Nobody talks. Stand there for about 10 seconds and then move back to your place in the circle. And about 3 or 4 of the young people did. If you are bilingual, go to the middle of the circle and stand there for a moment and go back to your place. A couple of the adults went to the middle of the circle. If your parents are divorced, go to the middle of the circle. No one can talk. Stand there for a minute. If you're gay or lesbian, go to the middle of the circle. One boy went to the middle of the circle, looked around, shrugged his shoulders, and went back to his place in the circle. But here's the one that grabbed my attention. She said, if you have a hidden handicap, go to the middle of the circle. Go, an invisible handicap, go to the middle of the circle. Well, that's when I began to wonder, what could she be talking about? Depression, diabetes, post-traumatic stress disorder. What amazed me was about 10 of the young people walked to the middle of the circle. And that's when I wanted to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? But no talking. There was one particular girl that surprised me because she was just a very attractive girl, very popular. Everyone loved her. She was always smiling. She had graduated from high school, and she was on her way to college in the fall. And even though she lived in Montgomery, Alabama, she was going to college at Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. She drove to camp in her own car. It was a Mercedes. So here we have a girl who's very attractive, intelligent, well-to-do, and yet she was carrying a burden. Now, I suppose I shouldn't have been too surprised because we all carry burdens, and many are invisible. The pain we bear, the suffering we've endured, it all prompted me to remember that we never know what's going on with people, what they are enduring, what they're going through. Some people might be coping fine, and others might be just covering it up. So we always need to be practicing respect, patience, and kindness. I find the words of Jesus in Matthew's Gospel so comforting, where in chapter 11 he writes, "Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Yes, worship is praise and adoration, but worship is also opening ourselves to that healing spirit moving among us. Then, of course, worship is not complete without our response. You'll remember that after Jesus chose his 12 disciples, he empowered them. He said, "Go, proclaim the good news, cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons." I can almost see the disciples saying, "Well, we can't do all that." But Jesus said, "I'm going to keep inviting you to do that. Don't worry about it. Be my disciple. I'm sending you out." So I've been on several mission trips in my life. I recall that usually the night before we leave, there's a meeting where we get acquainted with one another in the group. We find out what we're going to be doing. We learn about what we're supposed to take along. There's always a sense of nervousness and anxiety the night before. How is this trip going to go? Am I going to be accepted? Am I going to be helpful? Am I going to learn anything? And so I can just imagine Jesus gathering with his 12 disciples the night before he sends them out. He's already told them what they're going to do: cure the sick, raise the dead. But somebody raises their hand and says, "Well, what about safety? Are we going to be okay on this trip?" And Jesus said, "Okay, here's what I want to tell you. Over here are the doves, and over here are the wolves. I'm sending you to the wolves. But don't worry, you'll be okay." And then somebody says, "Well, what about our packing list? What are we going to take along?" Oh, Jesus says, that's easy. Don't take any money. Don't take any extra clothes. You won't need that. Don't even take shoes. You won't need them. So I can just picture them all showing up at the airport the next morning, and at the counter, the woman says, "Are you all together?" "Yes, we're together." "None of you are wearing shoes." No shoes. "Luggage?" "Oh, no luggage." I think the Transportation Security Authority wants to talk to you people. Now, it's hard for me, frankly, to see myself involved in that kind of mission activity. curing the sick and raising the dead. But I am convinced that there is something that every one of us can do right in the place where we are. That's our calling. That's our response to the love and healing that we have received. And we are compelled to serve Christ where we are in any way we can. So today, we have all decided to leave our homes and come to this house of prayer, together with this community, to sing our praises, to pray our prayers, to feel the spirit of wholeness in this place, and to recommit ourselves to God's service. And then, as we get up to leave later on, we might just discover that we've been changed, that we have grown, and that this worship has empowered us in new ways. How blessed we are to have this opportunity every single week. Amen. Amen. We join our voices now. Now let us stand for our P19. We believe in one God, the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally God the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one being with the Father, through him all things were made. For us and for our salvation, he came down from heaven by the power of the Holy Spirit. He became incarnate from the Virgin Mary and was made man. For our sake he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried. On the third day he rose again in accordance with the Scriptures. He ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again